Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Inside Cleantech. I have the pleasure today to have with me the CEO of 3 Megawatt, Mrs Edmee Kelsey. Edmee, thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
Thanks for coming.
As usual, we're going to be discussing about interesting things that concern the solar industry and the industry in general. And we're going to have a casual conversation, and hopefully we're going to be producing some insightful content for our viewers. Just to start, can you tell us a bit about yourself and about 3 Megawatt?
Yes, of course. So actually we had a very important day pass last week. We had the birthday of 3 Megawatt. 3 Megawatt is 7 years old. I founded 3 Megawatt here in Munich, but I actually have been an asset manager before for a developer, owner, operator based in the US.
Okay.
And when it comes to asset management, I would say a little bit ahead of, certainly at the time, for where asset management was in Europe. So I was hoping to bring some of the best practices from the States back to Europe, and it seemed to be a good way to do that through software, and that's why I started 3 Megawatt.
So when did you started 3 Megawatt when?
That was in May 2012.
2012.
Right.
And you've created an application service provider, you're an application service provider essentially.
That's right, yeah, so we're a software solution.
And you have what kind of platforms, what kind of software, how many different platforms do you have?
So we have one software solution, it's called Bluepoint.
The Bluepoint, yeah.
And Bluepoint is used by our clients to do asset management tasks like invoicing, reporting, managing contracts, managing compliance, looking at performance. Basically everything that an asset manager needs to do to have a 360-degree overview of their asset and their portfolio.
So you're very specialized in what you do?
Pretty much, yeah. So we started out in solar, and when we talk to customers, they said, well, listen, we have solar, we also have wind, we don't want to use two platforms. Can we use also your platform to use wind, for our wind assets? I said, sure, why not? And the funny thing is, what we discovered is that some argue that commercial scale and utility scale solar have more in common with wind than residential solar. Residential, very, very different market. The KPIs are different.
Absolutely.
But managing an asset, like dealing with subcontractors, dealing with the contracts, making sure to look after your performance, that's actually very, very similar. And then we expanded. We asked for biomass, biogas. We have also clients that use Bluepoint for small hydro, run off the river.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and if you think about hydro, it's an interesting one. Usually, big hydro plants have like a dedicated control room on site where people sit and play with the knobs. And even in hydro, I think it's becoming more decentralized. That they say it doesn't make sense to have all the engineers at the hydro site. It's also more efficient that people work remotely or control remotely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you started as an entrepreneur essentially, so I'm very interested in that side of your story as well. So it's very it's very rare, especially in our industry, to see women taking the helm, taking the initiative to start a business. So it is refreshing to see that. But if you could share perhaps a pivotal moment from your entrepreneurial journey, what would that be?
There are many, because being an entrepreneur is like a roller coaster, right? It always goes up and it goes down. And I would say that over the time, it's just in the beginning you go very high up and very high down, and after a while it gets less, like a sinus curve, it becomes like less wavy. And in the beginning, I think signing Sun Edison was a pivotal moment for us because it really showed that there was a business and that people needed their software. And we had always said that if we have 10 customers, that we would move away from sort of our minimum viable product that we had to completely have our own stack, as they call it in software, like doing everything ourselves. And we did that in 2016, but it actually was quite challenging because we had to migrate our existing clients to our new software. And that was a difficult time for us. Since then it makes life a lot easier to be able to be in control of your own software stack.
The pivotal moment in your journey was the point that Standardised accepted the software, so you had the market validation.
Exactly.
That what you offer is what the market wants.
Right, because we had a client before. We sold our software to Lightsource. I think Lightsource was our first customer, but we basically built it for them as a custom solution, and we hadn't really sold it as software as a service. So we didn't really know if there was a market out there, if people will buy it and say, yeah, we need this. So for Standardised to give that validation was a big deal for us. Yeah, and at the time, I think they were one of the largest portfolios. So it also made us realize that you need a certain type of customer for this software. It's not going to be two guys and their spreadsheet. Standardised had a very large asset management department, not just in the US, but also in Asia and in Europe, and they needed a way to tie it all together. And that's where we came in.
But if you could give your younger self an advice, what would that be?
That's a good question. I think when you're an entrepreneur, one of the most challenging things is not take things too personal. Stuff sometimes happens. It's not very pleasant. A client may cancel, and I have to admit, when we lost our first client, I was devastated. Maybe I took it too personal. At the end of the day, it's business, and stuff happens. Good stuff, bad stuff. I'm not saying it's not good to have a bit of passion and emotion in the business, but if you do put a lot of emotion in it, it'll kill you. So you have to be able to keep your distance sometimes and go, well, it's not my ideal outcome, and it just happens next time better, and just keep going. Just keep going all the time.
Persevere ahead.
Yeah. But I think that's always what they say about entrepreneurialism, right? You just have to keep going. But particularly in the beginning, you have self-doubt, right? Am I doing the right thing? Am I approaching the market in the right way? Is this the right product? But I really believe in what we do, and I think that makes a difference.
Did you face any prejudice from the market because you're a woman?
It's really funny. Not many people have asked me that question. I was in banking before, in investment banking. People always ask me, how is it different to be a woman? And I always said, you know what? I don't know, because I've never done it as a man. So I cannot combine the two, right?
But I'm just asking because I'm very male-dominating.
You're saying that, but believe it or not, we did some analytics on our users, and I would say at least half of them are women. And you would say, well,
that's a
why?
Good sign.
This is weird. This is male, macho, solar. But what we see when it comes to asset management, you have technical asset management, commercial asset management, and so we sometimes ask asset managers who want to hire other asset managers, and we say, well, what are you looking for? What does your perfect asset manager look like? They say, well, they have to be detail oriented, they have to be organized, they have to be persistent, they have to be a lot of, I would say, qualities that often are associated with women. So, and I think that's why we see a lot of women in that sort of commercial asset management. We asked one lady, she came to one of our clients from a completely different job, completely out of solar. And I asked her, I said, why did they hire you? You have like zero solar experience. You know what she said? She said, because I get shit done. And that's true. In this industry, you just need to be super organized. You need to be good with time. You just need to get it done. And I think that's why we see a lot of women. They're just very, very good at it.
There's an acronym for that. GSD, get shit done.
Is it? I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Good. So very, I think very, very interesting the way you're analyzing that. But moving on perhaps to a bit more, industry specific. I mean, you are an application service provider. You offer software as a service, specifically for asset management, as you said, across different technologies. How do you see the market evolving? What is your opinion, perhaps, on moving away from the subsidies into a more unsubsidized, market-driven environment? How does this affect your clients and, to an extent, what you do?
Yes, I think this is where the US has been ahead, because they had PPAs for a long time, right? So typically in the US, people would sign a 20-year PPA. It would be either a PPA with a utility, or it will be with a commercial or industrial off-taker or a municipal off-taker, which is great because you have the better credit quality. And so to handle sort of behind the meter and also grid connected assets is something that they've done for a long time, and build up processes around it, dealing with things like curtailment, dealing with issues in the building. There are a lot of them. And so I think that Europe is way behind, but what I'm seeing is that Europe is catching up and probably even leapfrogging. Leapfrogging in the sense that when I look at all the commercial PPAs that are being structured now in Europe, that requires a whole different set of skills in structuring that haven't been in the market yet. So what you notice is that we have people maybe from the traditional power market entering into our domain that know how to structure different types of PPAs. And so where the challenge will come for us, for asset management, is on the settlement side.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people will be looking for settlement solutions that can be quite far-reaching, right? That need to have anything from, dealing with many different types of pricing, dealing with different types of currencies and hedges and you name it. And we see that already happening, and I think it's cool. At the end of the day, we need to compete with the traditional fossil fuel industry, so let's start behaving like it. And I really sometimes get a little bit irritated about people who still hang on to the subsidy world. I mean, that train is gone, and it's never going to come back, right? So I think, you should really look forward and say, where's the market going? And how am I, as whoever you are, whether you're a developer, asset manager, or owner, get ready for this for the new era, for sort of the new reality.
This represents or presents, if you would like, a new challenge for asset managers, because right now, as asset managers, we have to manage multiple income streams. You have to manage more demanding power off-takers. You have, you get penalized as a generator if you don't produce the right kind of, output and export the right kind of, generating capacity. So it is a more, if you would like, dynamic and more demanding environment for asset managers. Do you see that, with your clientele?
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it should be like that. When I first came to Europe to start 3 megawatt, I was annoyed about, the big investment vehicles, and I won't name who they are, who had more, I would call like a set and forget approach. They would, hire people to write a beautiful prospectus. Then they would have some investment managers who would go out in Italy, in Germany, whatever, in France, and buy assets. Then they would outsource asset management, and they would go like, well, as long as I can pay my dividend to my, to my investors, to my end investors, I'm going to be good. And so, and then of course they would pay asset managers peanuts because they didn't see the value add of the, of the work that asset managers can do to really optimize and work the asset hard. So, and I think it's still a little bit the case. I think there's still a lot of value being lost for underutilized assets. Why? Because people don't care. And I think this is changing. People start to care. They look at their assets and they say, okay, well, it's producing a yield of X. What can I do to make it better? And there are many reasons why people do that now, but they should have done it a long time ago. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing for owners who can squeeze more yield out of their assets, and it's a good thing for asset managers who hopefully will start, their value will be more appreciated. And it's not like, oh, it's something that I need to have to make my asset bankable. It's an X that I have to cross because, I need to have an asset manager and I'm just going to find the cheapest. I think
Because the bank wants it.
because the bank wants it, right? Because otherwise I can't get my asset finance. That really irritates me. Sorry.
No, I couldn't agree more. But it's a reality that we see, especially in the market right now. We see, we see the market cannibalizing itself. We
Yes.
see the market driving the prices down. That means that everybody's squeezed out. That means that if we are squeezed out, then our suppliers will have to be, more competitive or price-driven as well. That means that we don't have the capability to use the right tools that we want. On the other hand, we see the market demanding better and more qualitative services. So there is a discrepancy here between what the market wants and what they're willing to pay. So
Correct.
how do you see that being increased?
Well, it's always a question, how low can you go, right? We see cheaper and cheaper PPAs, and then sometimes they don't get done, and people scratch their head, and well, how did they do this deal? And we have seen a lot of bankruptcies. Big, high-profile bankruptcies, and at the end of the day, when we see it already happening, the market is consolidating. There are people that have an advantage of better capital stack to do these kind of deals. And people are creative. I think just because the fact that solar is under so much price pressure, it makes people work harder and really think like, how can I do things better? How can I be more efficient? Because in my view, there's still a lot of fluff in the market about things that people can do better if they really think about it, and that's asset management, right? And asset management is every month say, how did I do last month? Could I have done better? Do it again, see if you have better results, and then keep adjusting until you've got the process down. Because you've got 25 years.
Yeah.
That's right. You've got a bit of time.
True.
But if you just do something and then keep repeating yourself and never look whether you do it in the right way, I think that's going to be challenging to stick around in the long term. You really have to, in this market, continuously keep reinventing yourself and continuously listening, like what's going on in the market, what are people doing, where are they placing value. So you have to be humble. Yeah, we're going to Intersolar tomorrow, and we always make jokes. We're looking for the biggest boost in Intersolar and see if they're still around next year. Right? That's really what it is.
What was the German company last year? The solar, the panel manufacturer company.
The Solar World.
Solar World.
Yeah.
Went bust.
Yeah, and there's Q cells. There's always people with big roofs.
Yeah.
Well, because at the end of the day, the way I look at solar is like, I know a lot of people in the early days made a lot of money, right? The developers that just came in and built turnkey projects and then on to the next shiny object. They made a lot of money. But today, I think it's a marathon, not a sprint. You need to be in here for the long run, and you go like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it for a very long time. And so for that, you need to be sustainable. And so, I sometimes wonder, I see people spending all that money, and I go, I'm not quite sure how you're going to do this. I understand it's important to have brand recognition and so on, but you also see all the panel manufacturers. It's tough. Most of them, they compete on price.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for them sometimes.
So, what is your opinion, Edmee, coming from this kind of software world? What is your opinion on these new hot topics about advanced analytics and AI, and how we use data and capture data and so on and so forth? When we see that solar plants are, we had this discussion with Adele the other day, we're discussing about how behind we are, for example, on the number of sensors we have on solar. That we rely on a couple of parameters, a weather station, perhaps whatever the data logger the inverters can give us. If you compare that with a wind turbine, then we are way behind on what type of data we capture and how valuable the data are. How do you see this kind of new trend coming out that everybody's talking about? We do this, we do that, we do AI, we do advanced analytics, and how does that tie with what you do?
Well, I think it's interesting because, I think if we have to go out and raise venture capital, right, we have to have at least blockchain and machine learning on every slide twice, because otherwise
you don't get funded.
Otherwise you don't get funded. So luckily we don't have that issue, because it's a PowerPoint thing still at the moment, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, and I know that people are working on it, and so one of the things I hear most often is that they said that their data set is not good enough to do something. A, the data set is not large enough, and B, the data quality is bad, right? So, and I think this is a problem our industry has had right from the start. If you don't have good data, then how are you going to do any kind of fancy analytics? So people are trying to do it, and I've been to many conferences where people show pretty graphs and scatter diagrams to predict, after they wash their panel when they have to wash it again or something, what the improvement is. And I remember one presentation that was particularly insightful. The guy just said, I washed my panels and afterwards I produced less, and I couldn't really figure it out. And but you're looking, because under AI, you basically start, every time you try to make an algorithm for what you see. So there's also a lot of subjectivity still in there. I washed my panel, I should be producing more, right? So you're looking constantly to start seeing what you want to see, and I think that's dangerous. But the other challenge I think we see, other than the data quality and the fact that that the data sets are not large enough, is that investors are not willing to pay for it. And so I always ask people, I don't know if you were at this O&M conference a few months ago, and I asked one of the panelists, I said, well, what's your budget, right? And nobody really wants to talk about a budget. But you know how it works on large companies. If you don't have a budget, you don't get anything approved.
Yeah.
I say, our management is positive towards machine learning and AI.
Well, how much are you willing to pay for it?
How much are you willing to pay? And if you're a business, it has to be like, you have to do a little break-even analysis. You're like, okay, if I'm investing in an expensive data analytics tool, when am I going to see that money back? How am I going to see it back, right? Because if the data analytics tool is telling me that I'm going to have a problem, or maybe it's going to do predictive maintenance, what am I going to do as an organization to benefit from this information? What am I going to do differently? And how does that translate into dollars and cents? And how do I pay back for this tool, other than it's just being a nice expensive hobby? And that, I think we're not there yet. And I'm not saying it's not coming, but I think we're still at the very, very early days.
So do you see this kind of, if you would like, advances in software tools and digital tools in general being done by the service providers, i.e. the O&Ms and the asset managers, because they are pressured by the market to become more efficient in order to pressure the price? So where I'm going with that is, it's not something that the end clients want, the asset owners want, but it's something that perhaps we do as service providers in order to become more efficient. There's a different drive.
So that's a question for you then. Were your company have a budget for machine learning tools?
That's a question for us, and I would definitely say that I would totally agree with you that we don't see clients willing to pay for the digital tools. We don't see clients willing to do the investment because maybe they don't have a budget, maybe they cannot justify it yet, maybe, as you said, even if they get the information, they don't know what to do with it because they're not trained enough. Or maybe they see that if they get all this kind of information, this will create a huge workload on the O&M, so will increase, the service prices. So, I would definitely agree with you that we don't see that kind of push from asset owners
Right.
to use digital tools, and this creates, as we've said previously, it creates a knock-on effect to the whole value chain. So it starts perhaps with the core service providers, could be OMX and the asset managers, but then it goes to, the software providers, it goes to, the subcontractors down the ground that they do perhaps the maintenance on site.
Right.
We're not, I totally agree with you, we're not there yet. We're not there yet, and I think that looking at what we do perhaps in green software is that we do drive this digitalisation agenda, but it's an internal drive. We drive it for us to become more efficient in order to be able to compete, on price basis.
Right. No, I think.
But this is not sustainable.
No, I don't think it's sustainable, but I think it also depends which market you're in, right? So, if you are managing very large utility scale assets, so say in Australia you have all these big ones, 200-300 megawatts, and you can afford to have a guy looking at a screen all day, that works. But if you are a manager of a very large residential fleet, like in the US, they have a lot of residential solar, it kind of doesn't make sense. How are you going to do that? You need to have some kind of tools to make sense of all the alarms that are popping up left, right, and center. And then it's residential, right? You see an alarm, you're going to pop immediately step in your truck and go and drive, an hour.
I haven't yet seen efficient asset management tools being applied to residential portfolios. Looking at the UK market, for example, in Europe.
I've seen one in the US, and they do a very clever thing with automated ticketing for residential, where it's difficult because you have to set up a lot of queries and you have to set up your own parameters, and you will have false positives and everything. But otherwise, if you're managing like a fleet of 100,000 residential units, how are you going to do that? There's no other way.
There's no other way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so residential in Europe is different because it's not this owner-operator kind of model. I haven't seen it. Every time people have tried, I think Longevity tried here. But if that were to happen, then I could see something like that starting in Europe as well. But Europe is more, C&I, utility scale for solar.
Yeah, and we've got also the different characteristics of the different markets. So we have different countries or perhaps even different owners having a different perspective and a different analysis of how they're going to use tools or services. So this is, if you would like, a cultural thing. For example, in the Netherlands, we have examples that we do the asset manager ourselves. So that's perhaps one of the approaches. It's not. I don't want to be, seem to be, country bias, but.
Just saying
it is a culture.
Cheap.
No,
it's true. I remember talking to guys in Holland, and then they're small installer, and they would just go to China and just negotiate with the,
maybe it's a country mentality, and not a country mentality. So I don't know how to put it, but it is a fact that we see specific markets having very specific, views on how to utilize core services or tools like Nuclear.
Yes, it depends. So we once did a little diagram and we say what makes us more successful in certain markets than others, and it has to do with the complexity of doing asset management. And so how do you define complexity? Well, first of all, if the assets are really well built, there are probably going to be less problems, and therefore there's less need. If you have a feed-in tariff and you always get paid in time, less problems. If you have stellar O&Ms who exceed expectations, less problems. If you have a bank who doesn't care about reporting, maybe once a year you have to send them a 2-pager, fine. So we then looked at the different markets and we classified them by markets that are more or less attractive for asset management in general. And usually, the Anglo-Saxon market is a good market because you look at a credit agreement that has like 200 pages, and then maybe they have a security deposit agreement, flack, another 200 pages, a million of reporting obligations. You miss one, you're dead.
That's business for lawyers.
Yeah, exactly. So all these, I would say, where project documentation is a very important element of the project. It will make it much harder for people to do asset management themselves because there are too many moving parts and maybe too many subcontractors, too many landlords and that one, maybe you have a complicated lease agreement and landlords keep knocking on your door and you're like, oh, you didn't install that flower bed that you promised me, or your bloody sheep have eaten my flowers. I don't know, I'm just making this up, but that's the life of an asset manager, right? And the more assets you have, the more complexity you have, and the more you need to be figuring out a way to control this. And it's not with an Excel spreadsheet and an Outlook calendar that you're going to do that.
No, you have to use digital tools. I think I can comfortably say that since we've started using your software, in the software we've seen efficiencies, we've seen reduction on people looking at things and trying to identify the process. Now, even if there's a newcomer, there's a process there, there's a tool. You've got all the documentation in the right place. You've got all the reports in the right place. So it creates a kind of, as I said, internal efficiencies. But I think, as I said, this is driven from inside, and we don't see the need from the market yet. But this is again based on different markets. You have different approaches based on different companies.
Right.
You have different cultures.
I think it's interesting what you're saying because we get a lot of calls from people who want to set up asset management service providers, right? So they say, oh, I work for Martin, I work for whatever, big company, out of a job, but I have been doing asset management and I think I can do this. And sorry, did I just name her? It could be anybody, right? And they rightly or wrongly perceive that the barriers to entry are very low. Right? They think I can start in my basement and with a computer and I can do this, and then I get a few clients and then I grow my business. Where this is difficult, I think, is that people who hire an asset manager are not going to do this anymore to say, oh, I know this guy from wherever, he's good and he's starting his business, I'm helping. No, because there are the banks behind it, there are other investors. So you already need to prove that you have experience, that you've done it before, that you have a portfolio. And so where I see a few people going, and I think that isn't this something you're working also on ISO accreditation to give, I think I remember this is something that you once looked at.
Greentech is one of the few asset management companies that is accredited by ISO 55001.
See, and I think people will start looking for that because it gives, rightly or wrongly, it gives comfort. I think actually rightly, it gives comfort that people know what they're doing, right? Because if you're giving asset management business to a newcomer who has no experience, and I'm not saying people shouldn't try and whatever, because competition is always good. But once you discover that they're not doing a good job, it's kind of too late.
Yeah.
Kind of messed up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge for people who want to start a business, like you're saying, to put the processes in place, to make it a repeatable process, and to manage your team, and to manage the knowledge in your organization. It takes time.
So that's a very good cue actually. I would love to get your opinion about standardization. How do you see this kind of new initiatives we see in the industry, and mainly driven by collectives and organizations like Solar by Europe and Solar Trade Association, that there is a need there to standardize and at least start speaking the same kind of language.
Right.
So what is your opinion?
I think it's very good. We participated in SunSpec's efforts, and at the time, it was very US, even though they also do Europe, but it was, I think, because they have a lot of US members, it became very sort of US centric, I would say. And we need to, because we're calling things different things. I mean, I think I told you once, like, it's just the concept of a ticket or a work order or an alarm, an alert, an incident, an event, an error, a fault. How are we using those words? How can we make sure that when we say something that the other person understands us? Which is challenging because we're using English, talking English now, but you also operate in a French environment, and then they call about an intervention. So then, of course, French people, they start like, oh, I did an intervention, which to me, from an Anglo-Saxon background, that's what you do, to your brother if he's behaving badly, you call him family, you say him that. So I think to agree on certain words that we as an industry are using and that we have the same meaning to it and the same definitions, that would already be a good start.
Excellent. So be mindful of the time. Allow me a last question. What is the future? What could we see in the next couple of years? How do you see the market evolving? What is your expectation? What do you expect to see in the next 2 days in the summer?
I can tell you. I know one thing for sure, and that's that it will change. And it will change a lot. I think every year we see changes. There's always been this delta, like, how was it last year and how's it this year? And, Intersolar really reflects that, storage aisle getting bigger and bigger, the inverter guys getting smaller and smaller. I think this time the whole B2, B3, like we're also, service providers, software companies, monitoring service providers is getting bigger. So that's good. I think the industry realizes that in order to be efficient, to drive prices down, everybody has to roll up their sleeves, right? And digitalisation is a good way to do this. A lot of people talking about it, but I think people are starting to take it more seriously. And we will have a lot of new challenges. I bet you, if we were to sit here next year, the topics would be different. Yeah, and at the moment we're trying to figure out what corporate PPAs mean. How are they going to get structured? What are the challenges? And who's going to finance them? I saw PV Magazine said yesterday that there is a German bank that's actually going to finance corporate PPAs, as long as they have a minimum of a 5-year sort of initial term, which it's cool. Yeah, wow, it's coming. And that's what we see. I mean, initially, I remember when I entered the industry, it was all about making solar bankable. Some banks wanted to go there, and then banks then wanted to storage, and then banks that wanted to do corporate PPAs, and then finally they start to get comfortable with it, and then they'll do it, and then there's the next thing. Right?
No, absolutely. I remember working on one of the infrastructure funds a few years back, and they didn't want to touch solar, and they didn't want to touch storage.
Yeah.
But I left them after a year and a half, and they became comfortable to invest in.
Right.
And I think this is a trend that keeps repeating. And you've got now also different major players coming into the market. You've got the oil majors. You've got the utility companies that they are decarbonizing and moving into different generation sources. So this creates a different market dynamic as well.
Absolutely.
Because these guys are not driven by the PPAs, not driven by they have the retail market there, and they just need more and more power to service their customers. They have an end-to-end kind of market view or market, so they don't need the in-betweeners, the PPA providers or the banks. And the drivers for these type of more institutional investors are completely different.
It is. It's actually very interesting that you mentioned that. So we see in our industry a lot of the utilities coming in big time, and we have a few utility clients. We also have a few sort of traditional fossil fuel clients who've invested in solar, and it couldn't be more interesting to see how different they are in their approach to solar. What we see is that the utilities, they want to fit it in with their existing business, and they all think they can, and then they discover that actually they can't, and it's different, and they need to have a different approach. But because they're very big and there are a lot of people involved, it takes them a little bit of time to get there and to understand what they want. But you know, they have the balance sheet, they have the resources, they'll figure it out. I mean, I have no doubt about it that they'll figure it out. Because when it comes to the oil and gas guys, they're even one step further down. For them, this is totally sort of virgin territory. They go look at it and go, well, we're not really sure what to do. And just spoke to a company just 2 weeks ago, and they had invested in their own little portfolio. I think they had 2 utility scale assets, and they go, oh, this is not so hard. Yeah, why is everybody making this big fuss about it? I mean, we standardized on one monitoring provider, and you know, we have a few guys, and life is good.
Okay.
If only you knew.
Wait and see.
Exactly. We'll talk next year and see what you say. So it's good, you know, and then I think it just shows how the industry is maturing. We also see that a lot of investors, they want to get more hands-on. The set and forget is gone. They'll have a technical department. They'll hire technical guys. They're going to supervise the O&M service providers, or you know, the asset managers, making sure that they do what they were supposed to do. And yeah, I think that's a good thing that the industry is getting more professional, because we need it. You know, our time is running out to get for climate change to do our bit. And the more solar, the more wind, the better. And we really all need to work hard at it to make it happen.
And at that point, Edmee, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.